Hello, and welcome to eolaiocht.ie. Today's topic is living things and their characteristics. Living things are things that display the characteristics of life. The scientific word for a living thing is an organism. The characteristics of living things are that they're made of cells, that they grow, that they require nutrition, that they respire, that they excrete, that they respond, that they can move, and that they reproduce. We can look at each of these characteristics now in more detail. Living things are made of cells. Sometimes cells are called the building blocks of life. Plants and animals are made of billions of tiny cells all working together. A single cell can be a living thing all on its own too. A bacterium is a living thing made out of a single cell, and every one of us was once a single living cell. Living things can grow. This can mean that living things get bigger over the course of their lives, but it can also mean that they get more complicated, or simply that when they get damaged, they can repair themselves. Living things require nutrition. This means that all living things need food. That does not mean that all living things eat. For example, plants use sunlight to make their own food, in a process called photosynthesis. Living things respire. This means that they can use food to get energy. Many living things use oxygen to get energy from food. This is called aerobic respiration. However, if oxygen supplies are low, some living things can respire without using oxygen. This is called anaerobic respiration. Living things excrete. This means that they can get rid of waste materials, like carbon dioxide, salts, and water. Living things respond. That is, if something changes nearby, living things can react to it, by moving or by changing in some way. Living things can move. This can be related to response, or it can be voluntary. Most animals can move voluntarily. Plants tend to move in response to things, like a flower opening up to sunlight in the morning and closing at night, but they can't move from place to place like animals can. Living things reproduce. All living things can produce more living things at some point in their lives, provided they're healthy. Sometimes ill health can mean that living things can't reproduce. And sometimes living things can reproduce, but they don't for various reasons. All healthy living things can reproduce at some point in their lives. Not all of the characteristics of living things are always obvious, but the more you study science, the easier it is to recognize them. If you have any questions, you can send them to questions@eolaiocht.ie and we'll try to answer them in another video or podcast. If you found this video useful, please remember to like, share and subscribe. This video is also available in Irish.